Hello everyone, and a warm welcome to Hyderabad Power Apps and Power Automate user group. And today's session is about extending Microsoft Forms with Power Apps and Power Automate. So, my name is Clavin, and I work as a technical consultant at Rapid Circle, and I'm also the technical support manager for Mohimbi. I go ahead and support over 1,000 high-level enterprise customers and basically help them adapt the no-code solution. You can find my social handles at the right side of my screen, so feel free to email me, ping me on LinkedIn, Twitter, or message me on Facebook. I also share my knowledge on my personal blog that is clavinfernandes.wordpress.com. So let me quickly take you to the agenda for today. First and foremost, I'll introduce you to the Microsoft Forms. Then we'll see how Microsoft Forms and Excel as a data source work. And then we will go ahead and save form responses to a SharePoint list. We'll try to print the Microsoft form responses as PDF or save it as a Word file. Then we'll see how we can work with Microsoft Forms attachments. And then we can connect Microsoft Forms data with Power BI using Power Automate. So first and foremost, what is Microsoft Forms? So Microsoft Forms is a lightweight app that helps you easily create surveys, take polls, create quizzes, or collect feedback. So if you are looking out for a lightweight app to collect information, both internal and external to the organization, then Microsoft Forms is the way to go. But I want to go ahead and highlight this particular link before we proceed with the slides. So there are frequently asked questions with Microsoft Forms. Who can use Microsoft Forms? Any Office 365 user, licensed user can use Microsoft Forms. Even if you have an Hotmail account or an Outlook account, you can go ahead and use Microsoft Forms. The second question that comes very often is the Microsoft form GDPR compliant? So yes, it's GDPR compliant as well. So this is the link which you should always keep handy when it comes to Microsoft Forms. So Microsoft Forms and Excel. So in Microsoft Forms, you can go ahead and easily view data from your quiz. But what is the data source for Microsoft Forms? It is Excel. Okay, for Microsoft Forms Pro, it is CDS, but for Microsoft Forms, it is Excel. And the data stored in the Excel really depends on what is the starting point of your form. So the starting point of your form can be forms.office.com, or it can be OneDrive for Business, or it can be Excel for Web. So let me go ahead and quickly show you how I can go ahead and create a form. I go to forms.office.com, click on a new form. I just say maybe feedback, add a question, text, feedback, preview. And this is how easy it is to go ahead and create a form. So feedback, something like this. Now we are interested in the data source. So if you see, the data source is Excel. And when I click on it, it should go ahead and download the Excel file. Okay, so the data source is Excel, but is stored within the form. Remember that this is very important. The next way you can create a form is by clicking on the new button. Click on the new button in your OneDrive for Business, click on Forms from Excel and create a form. So we'll again go ahead and create a feedback form, feedback for food maybe. And here you see that it will go ahead and provision a form for us within few seconds. The beauty of this is that when I go back, I see that I have an Excel file here. So remember one thing, I have more control over the data. In Power Automate, we have an Excel connector as well. I'm going to show you that, but I'm just highlighting it up front. So we have a feedback for food, right? So we'll create a choice column. So what should be the choice column? So you like veg or non-veg food maybe? veg, and I'll make it multiple choice. Some people like both, right? Veg and non-veg. So when I go ahead and I'll just fill in a response, I'll say that I like both veg and non-veg and I'll hit submit. Now let's go back to our data source and see how the data is stored in the Excel. You see, it is separated by semicolons and you have veg and you have non-veg. So let me go back and let me go back to my forms. That's the first one. And now I want to store this particular form feedback that I just created, this one, into a SharePoint list. So storing it into a SharePoint list can be very easy, but at sometimes it can go ahead and be overwhelming at times. Okay, so something that looks easy can be overwhelming. Remember that. So now let me go ahead and create a new form because let me see if I have a SharePoint list provision. Yes, I have a SharePoint list provision and I have got a title column and I have GIFs out here. So we'll create a form with three options: Skullcandy, Google Assistant, and Amazon Alexa. So I'll go back to my OneDrive, create a new form. I'll give it a name, GIFs, and I'll click on create. So let's say that we want to give out gifts for Diwali and we want to give out Amazon Alexa or maybe a Google Assistant or maybe a Skullcandy headphone. Right? This is what I want to give out. So I want to give out gifts and I want to store it within my SharePoint list. I have the list provisioned. The first thing, when I go ahead and try to extend any application, be it forms or be it anything, I first go to the templates and I first search what are the available templates that I can use. So remember this, always go ahead and search for templates first. 95% of the time, you will go ahead and see that a template is already there, which actually meets your requirement. In our case, the template is to record form responses in SharePoint. I'll just quickly click on this. We'll use the ready-made template, right? Why to go ahead and do the work again and again. So let me go ahead and quickly open the template. The template is easy. So first, I need to go ahead and pick up which particular form it is. So I should have given a good name, but it's GIFs. So I can just go back to my Power Automate, select GIFs. I can go ahead and select the identity of the template, the form ID as GIFs. The response ID is returned by the when form response is submitted action. I'll go back to my SharePoint. I'll click on Hyderabad. I'll go ahead and select the SharePoint demo list. I'll click on advanced. And here you see I have a title column. In the title column, I'll put in the responder's email. But here you see that it's giving me a drop down. How can I go ahead and store? I don't want to go ahead and store individual values. But here you see at the right corner, I have, and I can switch the input to a type array. But here again, when I click on it, I don't see my column. So let me try to be smart. Okay, let me try to be over smart. You can say that. What I'll do, I'll put in the compose action. I'll put in the inputs and here you see that what gives you prefer. I have this. Now, if I go ahead and try to pass in here, I get an option. Okay, I can go ahead and pass the output. I'll give it this a name. So I'll just give it a name, something like demo, and I'll try to save it. So when I try to save it, here it gives me an error. It tells me that you are trying to pass a string to an array, and that's not possible, right? So if we go ahead and pass a string to an array, it's not possible. So I act another bit over smart guy I am. So I'll go ahead and click on expression. I'll try to make it of a type array. This is going to fail, okay? But I still want to show you because something that looks so very easy, storing Microsoft form responses in a SharePoint list, I have to go through a bit of hurdle. Just think of it. I need to go through hurdles to go ahead and store a simple multi-choice column. Now I'll save it. And here you see this time it's saved. So I'll go back, click on preview, click on Amazon Alexa, Google Assistant, and submit it. I'll go back to my forms and it failed. So this is not going to work, correct? So what is the workaround? So let me go ahead and show you the workaround. For that, I have already pre-provisioned the form. The form is exactly the same as our gifts form. So let me search for it. It is SharePoint demo list. Just close this Excel. So exactly the same, right? Skull Candy, Google Assistant, and Amazon Alexa. I'll go ahead and preview it, and I'll go ahead and select two options, and I'll hit submit. Now I'll show you what is the workaround. Go back to my forms real quick. So record forms in SharePoint. This is the one. So let me see if the flow has triggered. So yes, the flow has triggered. So let me try to explain it. This is the same old trigger. There's only one trigger with forms. So I have to use that. Then I add a bit of delay. Why I add a bit of delay? Because the data source in this case is actually Excel. So I'll just go ahead and show you that. Go back to my OneDrive, and the data source is this, that is SharePoint list demo. Okay, so I'll again go ahead and go back to my. So I have seen this. Whenever you go ahead and store the data into Excel, it takes a bit of time. If you don't add delays, you'll get a 404 error and it will fail. Then I have gone ahead and initialized a variable of type string to store the email addresses. And then I'll go ahead and created an array variable. Now what I have done next, I've used the apply to each loop, and I go ahead and get the row from the Excel. Remember, I'm not taking the data directly from Microsoft Forms. I prefer Excel. As I told you, Excel gives me more control. I get the row. I go to my OneDrive. I select the SharePoint demo list XLX. I select the table. I give it a key column known as ID. I didn't create the ID column. Forms automatically provisions it. And then the key value can be looked up from the action above it. That is, the trigger returns me the ID. Then what I do, I have it as a string, right? I want to go ahead and convert it into an array. So this is how it looks, right? Google Assistant. This is what I submitted a few seconds ago. Skull Candy and Google Assistant. I want to go ahead and convert it to a type of string, from string to array. So I'm going to use the split operator. Using the split operator, I go ahead and convert individual values into an array. How do I do that? I just copy the formula, go to my notepad, and I'll show you the formula. I do nothing. I take the output from, that is the column name, what gift do you prefer, question mark 2, and I split it with semicolons. That's it. Now I have an array. But when I have an array, I have to use a filter array. Now, why I'm using a filter array? I'll go back. It seems that 2 minutes ago, our flow has already succeeded, but I'll show you why I'm filtering the array. I'm filtering the array because it gives me an empty value at the end. I don't want the empty value. That's why I'm removing the empty value, and then I go ahead and use select. Using select, I go ahead and prepare an array with a key value pair, which my SharePoint list actually accepts. So I have a value and Skull Candy, then Google Assistant. Then I do go ahead and store this particular output from the select action into the array variable, and the email, I store the email address. Then I go ahead and create the item in the SharePoint list. Okay, so this has worked. So let me go back to my SharePoint list. If I can just make this thing is coming in between. So yeah, so here you see 3 minutes ago, we have an item and we have patched it successfully. If I edit it and if I go here, It's exactly how it should be. So remember one thing, something that looks easy can be complicated. Another tip out here, a tip would be if you go ahead and come across a string with semicolons, comma separated, you can convert them into an array using the technique I just showed you, be it any other data source. Okay, so that's the first demo that I went through. So now let me go ahead and show you a second demo. One of the most oftenly asked questions is this. Can I go ahead and print Microsoft Forms as PDFs or Word? Yes, you can. And I'm going to show you how easy it is. Now for that thing, let me go ahead and again, go back to Forms. I'll just click on New Forms. I'll just give it a name, something. We'll just take the feedback as a reference for this feedback because most of the forms that I've seen are related to feedbacks, but you can use it for other options as well. So I can go ahead and use text for this. So I'll just put in please provide feedback. Perfect. And I'll give it a long answer and I'll give it a name, something feedback for speaking. Because I'm sure that I'll have a form named feedback and then we'll get confused. Okay. So now I'm going to preview it. I'm going to submit a sample feedback just to make sure that it works. So maybe food was good. Just submitting a dummy feedback. That's fine. I'll go back to my flow. I'll go back and create a new flow from scratch. I'll go ahead and create an automated flow. I want to create a PDF or a Word document when the response has been submitted. So when a response is submitted is the perfect trigger for me. I'll go ahead and pick up the form. As I told you, I have many feedbacks, so I just rightly named it as feedback for speaking. Okay, that's what we are working with, feedback for speaking. Next, what do I want? I want to go ahead and get the response of the response details. So I'll just type in forms. So as I told you previously, we just have one trigger and one action. So I'm using this get response details. Again, selecting feedback for speaking, giving it a response ID, adding a new action. Now I'll add a compose action. Remember this, if you want to convert a form layout, you need to go ahead and use some little bit of HTML. What I'll do, I'll click on new. I have an HTML being created. It's a simple little HTML. I'll just copy it. I'll just paste it in. So responder's email. I'll fill in the blanks. Submission time. Fill in the blank. I think somebody is unmuted, but yeah, now it's fine. Feedback is the provide feedback. Now I want to go ahead and convert it into a PDF to start with. Okay. So you can use any converter of your choice, but I use Mohimbi because that's the one that I have been using and it works for me. Okay, that's very important. It works for me. So HTML to PDF. So what I'll do, I'll pass in the HTML fragment to the convert action. Next, I also want to convert it into a docx file, right? Basically, if you want it to be edited after the feedback is being done, perhaps you want to edit it, you want to add some few more comments to it. So you'll convert it into Word. So for this, I'll again use the Mohimbi convert action or the convert document action. I'll give it a name. So this is an HTML, so test.html. The source file content would be the compose output. And here you see that you can cross convert documents. I'll convert it into docx. Now what I'll do, I'll send it as an email. It's easy. Let's send it as an email. So I'll send it to my account, to my test account. Attachments. I'll go ahead and add attachments to it. So let me just hard code it for now. Test.pdf would be my first attachment. Okay, so test.pdf comes from the convert HTML to PDF action. Be very vigilant about this. Don't mix match things. Okay, so that's again a tip. I've seen people just mix matching out things and then they would complain that, okay, this does not work. This works, but you need to be careful a bit. So let me give it a little bit meaningful name more than test. So test doc maybe, and then convert it as well. So testdoc.docx. Let me give it a name, conversion demo, and I'll save it. I'll go back to my forms. Just has so many forms open. This is the form that we are working with. So I'll just give in the feedback. This is a quick demo and I liked it. Submit. Right? So easy, right? So easy to go ahead and create and convert forms. You see that it has already been triggered and it's running. So now it's going to go ahead and convert the HTML into PDF, and then we are going to convert the HTML into a docx file. So give it a few seconds. Okay, before I said few seconds, but it took less than few seconds. And it has an email in my inbox at 4:48. I have the test.pdf out here. It's properly formatted. It looks okay. And I have the docx as well. So very easy, isn't it? But do you think the end customers are always happy with okay looking PDFs or okay looking files? No. One of the customer I met last week, okay, he came up to me and told me, Clavin, I have a form which looks something like this. And my boss wants to go ahead and print the output, which looks exactly similar to this. I don't want to go ahead and make forms that are like 90% look-alike, 60% look-alike. So I said, okay, I knew HTML is a friend, so we could do it. So I'll just quickly preview it and first fill in the form so that we can see how the output comes out. So I'll put in my name and I prefer both veg and non-veg and I'll click on submit. Then as usual, to save out some time, I have gone ahead and provisioned the flow up front. So print PDF demo is the flow. Let me first click on it and see if it's running. Yes, it is running. Let me edit it. So here it is. Again, I take the response that is being submitted. Just one trigger, we have to work with it. Again, I have set the data source as a OneDrive for Business Excel. I like Excel again because I get more control of the data. And if you have seen, I'm working with a complex control out here. It's going to be a choice control. I'm mainly focusing on choice control out here because I have seen 90% of the forms have choice controls. And it's a pain for most of the customers to convert them into HTML or bring out cool looking PDFs out of it. But trust me, it's easy. So what I do, I initialize a string variable of choice. Now I have added a scope out here. Okay, first I get the rows from the OneDrive for Business file. I initialize a variable of type choice. I add a scope out here. The scope basically helps me to go ahead and minimize the actions and make my flow look more beautiful or presentable. So in the choices, in the scope, I'm just working with choices. So as you have already guessed, if I'm going to work with choices and if I'm going to get the data, this is the sheet that we are working with, veg, non-veg, veg, non-veg. They are again separated by semicolons. So let me go back to my flow. So I'll split it, create an array. The last demo filtered the array, selected the array, but then I passed the JSON. I pass the JSON because I want to go ahead and get individual bits of values. I don't want to pass in the whole array to my HTML, right? That's not what I want to do. So I go ahead and loop one value at a time. And in the compose HTML, I'm going ahead and decorating my control. with checkbox control. I'm creating a checkbox control and passing it food preferences. So each time it will loop, it will go ahead and create this HTML. Just keep this in mind for now. So it will loop and it will create HTMLs. Then finally, I go ahead and compose a bit of CSS, a bit of print specific CSS and HTML to create the form and pass in the email address and the food preferences. Then I use the Muhembi action. Muhembi action goes ahead and supports the latest browser. All complex JavaScripts supports print specific media type. So you can go ahead and use Muhembi if you want. Then I create the file, then I send it as an email. So I can see that I already have an email in my inbox. Let me go ahead and open the output. And here you see lookalike email, right? This looks pretty much good as compared to the last email, which was a bit blunt. So this is how you can create attractive PDFs from Microsoft Forms, and you can extend the functionalities. So before we proceed, let me get rid of this tab. Okay, get rid of this tab. So let me go back to my slide. The next important concept that I want to shed the light on is going ahead and using attachments. So attachments, when I talk about attachments, the first thing that comes to my mind is Yash Agarwal, okay, because he was the one who actually created the video with John, which actually helped me to go ahead and create demos. So this is the video link. If you want to go ahead and learn attachments, go ahead and learn. He also has a new video which he uses the array approach. So a huge shout out to him. Great job, Yash. Okay. So my customers actually told me 7 months back, approximately when Yash got out a video, they wanted to go ahead and work with attachments. So first, to get the basics, Yash, I'm going to go ahead and show you your demo real quick. Okay, I'm going to fly through this because Yash has explained it and has done an awesome job with John out there. So here, what is an attachment? How do I add an attachment column? I go click on plus and click on upload files. This is how you can go ahead and add an attachment. An attachment is basically a question. The attachments are basically stored in the OneDrive for Business. So it's under apps, Microsoft Forms, and the form name is attachment basics. And you see, I just created a question and it created a folder. So all the attachments go ahead and are getting saved in the folder. Remember that. So I already have an attachment control. So I will, before I delete it, there are a few more things. You can go ahead and set the number of attachments. You can also, for a single file, you can go ahead and set the size. There's more to it. You can go ahead and select file types as well, which attachments you want to be uploaded, which attachment should not be uploaded. Okay, so this is all about attachment control. And another thing, attachments only work with internal users. You cannot go ahead and use an attachment control with external users. So let me go ahead and quickly fill in this form. Please submit supported documents. So maybe I'm flying somewhere. So maybe I'm creating some visa documents. I upload it. So let me go back to my desktop. I have sample files out here. I'll go ahead and store visa and my photo. And I just click on submit. Perfect. That's pretty much it. Within a second, if I come back and click on question 1, you'll see that it's already there. So that's real quick. Let me go back to the flow and show you a flow in which you can go ahead and shift that attachments to exactly in your OneDrive for Business, or you can create a copy in Sharepoint. Okay, not in OneDrive, but in Sharepoint. So attachment basics is the name. You see it already succeeded 17 seconds ago. So I'll just click on it. So here you see when a response is being submitted, the same old trigger where I'll get the response details. I use a compose action to go ahead and log out one particular column or one particular question. Okay, so the question is what I log, the attachment basics. That's the name of my attachment column. Remember that. Okay. Then I have already copied from the compose action. Then I try to generate a payload. To generate a payload, I click on generate from sample and paste this payload. And this is how I create a payload. Then I loop through each individual documents, go to get file content, add the get file content OneDrive action, get the file content, and then finally create the file into my SharePoint library. So let me go back. Let me see. Let me show you the SharePoint library. And here you see, a minute ago, there are two attachments already being copied. So very easy to work with attachments. But again, as I told you, my customer came back to me and he wanted to extend this functionality a little bit further. Okay, I say a little bit further, but I'll show you how did we extend it. So all the demos that I'm showing you is from my real life experience as a support manager. Okay, so everything is coming up, everything is being used in production. So attachment merge demo. So he created a form something like this. Okay, consider that this is again a visa form. So I'll go ahead and put in my name, Clavin Fernandes. Purpose of visit. Maybe I'm going to speak at an event. And then I go ahead and upload two files and hit submit. I'm filling the form first because I want to go ahead and show you the output. Okay, what my customer actually requested from me and asked me to get things done. So the responses, so it's attachment demo. I'll just go ahead and click on it. Let me see if it's running. Yes, it's running. So while that's running, let me open it and let me wait for the response for maybe a couple of seconds. It should not take a whole lot of time, but let's wait. Let's get a breather. Let's wait and let's wait for the response. So while we wait as well, it comes in so very quickly. So this is what my customer had requested. He wanted a form, but with the form, he wanted the documents to be merged. Okay, this is not a photo that I should use for visa, but just think of it, right? So my customer wanted all documents at one place with the form. This is an easy way to go ahead and save records. How did I go ahead and achieve it? So before I show you that flow, I want to show you this. That is my slide. Just look at this. I'm going ahead and working with three conditions. Forget about the image. We'll see it in the flow designer. So condition one, if there are no attachments, just convert the form. If there is a single attachment, convert the form and merge the single file. Remember this. And third condition that we went ahead and executed. If there are more than one attachments, convert the form, merge the file array, create a file array, pass it to the merge action and merge the attachments with the file array. I assume all are confused. It's a bit confusing, but don't worry. I have a blog around it, and if you follow it, I guarantee you will go ahead and understand it. It will be a piece of cake for you. Okay, let's understand again. We went and saw the third condition. So when the file was submitted, we got the response, we created the file array. The file array is going to be used in the Muhimbi merge action. Again, the condition. Did it have no attachments? No. If it did not have any attachments, it would have just converted the HTML to PDF and sent it. But our condition went ahead and said, no, it has multiple attachments. So don't go into the no loop, go into the yes loop. Now, what I do in the yes loop, I go ahead and pass the JSON. I showed you in the previous demo how you can go ahead and generate the body. The same idea is used out here. Then I convert exactly the same form using HTML. Then I go ahead and apply to each loop. So if you see, I had two attachments, so I loop in twice, right? I loop in twice, get the attachments. And if the attachment count is 1, go to this loop. If it's more than 1, go to this loop. So let me quickly edit it and let me show you that. So conditions again. If there are no attachments, go here. If there are attachments, go here. And if the count is 1, execute this. If there are multiple attachments, then run through this. I'm using the merge action. As I told you, I'll go ahead and pass the attachments as a file array, and then I'll merge. Okay, I'll merge the array with the form itself. Okay, and then send it as an email. That's what it is in our inbox. So this is how I have gone ahead and extended Yash's idea of exporting attachments into a working solution for one of my customers. So that is what about the community, right? You go ahead and help someone and it helps someone else. So just keep on spreading the word, Yash. Okay, so next. This is the final demo for today. Now, we want to go ahead and store real-time responses from Microsoft Forms into a Power BI report. We want to stream the data. So how do I do that? To stream the data, let me think of let me take this form. This is quite a simple form. There is a survey that is being sent out to everyone who tells me, do you want to go ahead and donate for COVID, 100 rupees for COVID? Yes, no. It can be an anonymous survey or it can be a survey that is being only within the organization. So I want to go ahead and create a report out of it. So let's go ahead and quickly show you how we can do that. So first thing, you need to go ahead and select a workplace. So I'll go ahead and select workspace, sorry. So sample boot camp it is. And for the workspace, I want to create data sets. Data sets is how the report is being generated. Data set stores the data. We want to go ahead and stream live data. So I'll be streaming the live data out here. I'll be clicking on API and I'll be clicking on next. So let me give my data set a name. So maybe give it a donation data set. Then I'll go ahead and give it some values. Okay, so just see this is text, but out here in my form, the value is not text. It is of multiple choice or radio button. You can say that. So I'll put in this. Here you see it creates a schema for me. Don't worry about this text. Power BI is intelligent enough to go ahead and convert that text into a multiple choice question. So I'll just copy the schema, keep it handy. I'll go back to my flow and I'll create a flow for this. Click on my flows. I'll click on automated flow. I'll use when a new response is being submitted, I'll pick the form. The form name was, would you like to donate for COVID? I can listen to someone clicking. So if you can mute yourself, it would be great. So when a response is submitted again, so I'll use the forms and get response details. I'll go ahead and select my form. What was my form names? Would you like to donate for COVID? I pass in the identifier. Then I go ahead and use the Power BI. Out here, I'll add the row to the data set. From the workspace, I'll select the workspace that was sample. Let me go ahead and search for the workspace. Where is my workspace? Yeah, sample bootcamp. And then I'll select the data set, donation data set that we just created. The real-time data, it's automatically created. Don't worry about it. And I'll pass in the payload. In the payload, instead of dummy value, I'll go ahead and pass this. I'll give it a name. So I'll just go ahead and submit a feedback. Okay, so yes. Just leave it as it is for now. I'll go back to my data set. I'll click on done. I have the data set here, but here you see I don't have an option to create a report. So I click on edit. And then I go ahead and turn the switch on, historic data. I'll just hit done. Now, magically, you see that I can create a report. Now, you already see that I have the data set out here. It's out here. So I'll just go ahead and try to just add it to my screen. I'll just select it, add it to my screen. Perfect. Now here, once I have added it to my screen, I'll go ahead and make it of a pie chart, keep it easy, and add the value out here. right? I'll go ahead and save it. I'll not save it. Before saving it, I'll submit a response. Submit few responses, I think. First, I'll say yes. Again, I'll say preview. Yes. Submit another response. Some bad guy doesn't want to donate. Say no. So if you see out here, within seconds, you have the data. You have the data in your report. Just look at it. You remember, you just see one person said no, others said yes. We streamed live data. Okay, we streamed live data into a Power BI report. I can just go ahead and save it. Save this, maybe HYD report, save it. Now I can go ahead and share this report on my company portal, or maybe store it on, save it and publish it to web. Use it where you want to use it. And this is all live data that comes in. So this is pretty much it when it comes to going ahead and extending Microsoft Power Automate with Microsoft Forms. Say that I said it vice versa, just extending Microsoft Forms with Power Automate. These were real life scenarios that I wanted to demonstrate. Finally, out here, I went through a hurry. So these are the blocks. So first thing that we did, recording forms, choice, responses to a SharePoint list. Just follow it. If you have questions, drop me an email. Again, converting a simple form to PDF. Follow it. A blog by my close friend Yash Kamdar, who actually does a great job on explaining how you can go ahead and convert forms output to Word documents. Follow him as well. Then converting forms with the UI. If you want the HTML is also out here. Just copy paste the HTML into your compose action and use it. Finally, the merge one that I have it on the Power Apps community. You can go ahead and follow it and merge response attachments to Microsoft Forms. And finally, Yash's blogs when it comes to attachments. So this is pretty much it when it comes to my session. Finally, I want to say thank you to Yash, Ritika, the Hyderabad user group community to going ahead and inviting me. And thank you for all who have joined. I hope this session was informative. You have learned something new today, and I'm sure that you're going to go ahead and extend Microsoft Forms in your organization and get the most out of it.